There exists within your skull a gateway so ancient that civilizations separated by oceans and millennia all discovered it independently. A tiny organ, no larger than a grain of rice, that the father of modern philosophy declared to be the seat of the soul itself. René Descartes was wrong about many things, but when he pointed to the pineal gland and proclaimed it the meeting point between matter and spirit, he touched upon a truth that predates written history. This minuscule structure, tucked deep within the folds of your brain, has been revered, studied, and deliberately suppressed for one simple reason. Those who unlock its secrets gain access to realms that most believe exist only in dreams and myth. The pineal gland produces a molecule so powerful that governments classify it alongside the most dangerous substances known to humanity. This same molecule floods your brain every night as you dream and surges through your consciousness in the moments before death. It is the chemical key to the doors of perception, the biological basis of mystical experience, and perhaps the most guarded secret in the architecture of human consciousness. Yet you carry it with you always, a dormant third eye waiting to open, a receiver tuned to frequencies that modern life deliberately jams with fluoride, blue light, and electromagnetic pollution. What if I told you that this suppression is not accidental? That there are forces, both seen and unseen, that benefit from keeping this gateway closed? The ancients knew what we have forgotten, that the pineal gland is not merely an evolutionary remnant, but an active portal between dimensions, a biological stargate that connects the finite mind to infinite consciousness. And the most disturbing truth, it is still functional. It still works. The question is whether you have the courage to activate what has been deliberately put to sleep. 5,000 years ago, in the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates underwent a ritual death to activate what they called the Eye of Horus. This was not metaphor or religious symbolism. The hieroglyphic representation of the Eye of Horus, when compared to a cross-section of the human brain, reveals an anatomically precise mapping of the pineal gland and its surrounding structures. The ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge of neurology that supposedly would not be rediscovered until the 20th century. But they knew something we have forgotten, that this gland is not just anatomy, but technology. In the Vedic texts of India, this same gland is identified as the Ajna chakra, the third eye, the command center of consciousness. The Hindu mystics described it as a lotus with two petals, corresponding exactly to the bilateral symmetry of the pineal's interaction with the brain's hemispheres. They spoke of a serpent energy, Kundalini, that when awakened would rise through the spine and activate this dormant eye, granting Siddhis, supernatural powers that included telepathy, remote viewing, and the ability to perceive other dimensions. The Greeks called it the conarium, the pine cone, and placed its image atop the staff of Dionysus, god of divine madness and ecstatic revelation. The pine cone appears in Vatican City, in Masonic symbolism, in Sumerian reliefs, always the same symbol, always pointing to the same secret. There is an organ within you that serves as an antenna to the divine. Plato wrote of it in his allegory of the cave, suggesting that most humans see only shadows on the wall, while those with activated pineal glands perceive the true forms that cast those shadows. But perhaps the most revealing tradition comes from the Tibetan Buddhist practice of trepanation, where monks would deliberately create small openings in the skull to relieve pressure on the pineal gland, believing this would accelerate enlightenment. They understood what modern science is only beginning to admit, that the pineal gland is uniquely sensitive to pressure, to light, to electromagnetic fields. It is, in the most literal sense, a biological transducer that converts cosmic energies into neurochemical signals. The systematic suppression of pineal gland activation in modern society is so comprehensive that it appears deliberate. Consider that the pineal gland is the only part of the brain not protected by the blood-brain barrier, making it uniquely vulnerable to toxins. Now consider that fluoride, which is added to water supplies across the developed world, accumulates in the pineal gland more than any other part of the body, forming calcified deposits that literally turn this crystal receiver into stone. The pineal gland is photoperiodic, meaning it responds to light cycles to regulate circadian rhythms. Yet we live under artificial light that never dims, staring at screens that emit blue wavelengths specifically calibrated to suppress melatonin production. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It is the precursor to the most powerful endogenous psychedelic known to science. When the pineal gland produces melatonin in darkness, it can be converted into pinoline and dimethyltryptamine, the legendary DMT, the spirit molecule that researchers like Rick Strassman have shown can induce encounters with non-human intelligences, visits to parallel dimensions, and direct experience of the divine. Think about this. The molecule that your brain produces naturally, that floods your consciousness in dreams and death, is classified as a Schedule I substance with no accepted medical use. Why would nature evolve a gland that produces an illegal substance, unless that substance grants access to information that certain power structures would prefer you never discover? The ancient Gnostics called the material world a prison and spoke of archons, entities that feed on human ignorance and suffering. They taught that the pineal gland was the key to escaping this prison, the biological mechanism through which consciousness could transcend the limitations of matter. Modern research at institutions like Johns Hopkins and Imperial College London has confirmed what shamans have known for millennia, that DMT and similar molecules produce experiences that subjects consistently describe as more real than ordinary reality. These are not hallucinations in the conventional sense. Brain scans show that psychedelic states actually increase neural connectivity and communication between brain regions that normally do not interact. The default mode network, the brain's ego structure, temporarily dissolves, allowing consciousness to experience itself without the filters of identity, time, and separation. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has demonstrated that meditation can trigger the pineal gland to produce its own psychedelic compounds, leading to mystical experiences without external substances. His brain scans of meditators show gamma wave patterns identical to those produced by DMT. The implication is staggering. The pineal gland is a biological technology for interdimensional travel, and meditation is the activation protocol. But activation requires specific conditions that modern life seems designed to prevent. The pineal gland contains magnetite crystals, the same magnetic material that allows birds to navigate using Earth's magnetic field. These crystals make the pineal gland a biological compass, sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. Yet we live surrounded by Wi-Fi, cell towers, and electronic devices that create an electromagnetic fog, a kind of static that drowns out the subtle cosmic signals the pineal gland evolved to receive. The ancient practice of sleeping with the head pointed north, meditation in caves, and spiritual retreat to mountains all make sense when understood as methods to escape electromagnetic interference and allow the pineal gland to function as designed. The pineal gland produces not just melatonin and DMT, but a whole cascade of neurochemicals that remain largely unstudied. Beta-carbolines, pinoline, and 5-methoxydimethyltryptamine all interact in ways that mainstream neuroscience has barely begun to map. These molecules do not just alter consciousness, they appear to tune it to different frequencies of reality. Traditional shamanic cultures speak of plant spirits and entity contact, not as metaphor, but as literal communication facilitated by these molecular keys. The connection between the pineal gland and the phenomenon of near-death experiences cannot be ignored. Cardiac arrest patients who report leaving their bodies, encountering deceased relatives, and experiencing life reviews all show massive spikes in gamma wave activity centered in the pineal region at the moment of clinical death. The experiences they report, traveling through tunnels of light, encountering beings of pure love, accessing unlimited knowledge, mirror exactly the experiences of DMT subjects in laboratory settings. But here is what they do not want you to know. You do not need to die or take external substances to access these states. The pineal gland is designed to produce these experiences naturally, but only under specific conditions that modern life systematically eliminates. Extended darkness triggers increased DMT production. Fasting amplifies pineal gland sensitivity. Specific breathing patterns can alkalize the blood, and create the chemical conditions for endogenous psychedelic production. These are not new age fantasies, but measurable biological processes that have been documented in peer-reviewed journals. To begin the process of pineal gland activation, you must first understand what has been done to suppress it. Start by eliminating fluoride from your water through reverse osmosis filtration or distillation. The pineal gland can begin to decalcify once fluoride intake stops, but this process takes time and conscious effort. Supplement with boron, which helps remove fluoride from the body, and iodine, which the pineal gland needs to function properly. These are not medical recommendations, but biological facts about what this gland requires to operate as evolution intended. Create periods of complete darkness. The pineal gland begins producing significant amounts of melatonin only after 2 hours of total darkness. This means no LED lights, no phone screens, no digital clocks. The kind of darkness our ancestors experienced every night, but which has become extinct in the modern world. In this darkness, practice the ancient technique of trataka, gazing at a single point of light like a candle flame, then closing the eyes and maintaining the afterimage in the mind's eye. This directly stimulates the pineal gland through the optic nerve pathways that connect the eyes to this light-sensitive organ. Practice the breath of fire, a pranayama technique that creates specific pressure changes in the skull that massage the pineal gland. Breathe rapidly through the nose with emphasis on the exhale, allowing the inhale to happen naturally. After 1 minute, hold the breath and gently press the tongue to the roof of the mouth while visualizing energy rising from the base of the spine to the center of the skull. This is not imagination, but the movement of cerebrospinal fluid, which bathes the pineal gland and can be consciously directed through breath and intention. The most powerful practice, however, requires more courage. Spend 3 days in complete darkness, what the Kogi shamans of Colombia call the darkness before birth. In this profound darkness, without any external light stimulus, the pineal gland shifts into an altered state of production, manufacturing 5-MeO-DMT and other powerful consciousness-expanding molecules. The experiences that arise, visions, entity contact, dissolution of the ego, are not hallucinations but perceptions of frequencies of reality that are always present, but usually filtered out by ordinary consciousness. Begin to work with sound frequencies that resonate with the pineal gland. The frequency of 936 Hz, when played through headphones using binaural beats, creates a standing wave in the brain that directly stimulates the pineal region. Ancient Sanskrit mantras, Gregorian chants, and indigenous icaros all utilize specific frequencies that create resonance in the skull's cavity, producing piezoelectric effects in the pineal gland's crystals. This is not New Age speculation, but measurable physics. Crystalline structures produce electrical current when subjected to mechanical pressure, including sound waves. Understand that activation of the pineal gland is not without consequences. As this gateway opens, you may experience phenomena that challenge everything you believe about reality. Synchronicities will multiply beyond statistical probability. You may perceive energy fields around living beings, what traditions call auras. Dreams will become lucid and prophetic. You might experience spontaneous out-of-body states or encounter non-physical intelligences. These are not signs of mental illness, but documented effects of increased pineal gland activity that have been recorded across cultures and throughout history. The pineal gland is called the seat of the soul, not because it contains the soul, but because it is the interface through which consciousness beyond the physical body can interact with the biological organism. It is a receiver and transmitter, a biological stargate that connects the local mind to the universal field of consciousness that physicists like David Bohm called the implicate order. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, when Buddha spoke of the jewel in the lotus, when the Egyptians placed the eye of Horus at the center of consciousness, they were all pointing to the same anatomical reality. You carry within your skull the technology for transcendence. But transcendence comes with responsibility. The beings encountered in DMT space, the intelligences that communicate through activated pineal glands, consistently deliver the same message across cultures and individuals. Humanity is at a critical juncture. The suppression of pineal gland function is not random but part of a larger pattern of consciousness control that keeps humanity trapped in a narrow band of perception, unable to access the guidance and wisdom available from higher dimensions of reality. The activation of your pineal gland is not just personal spiritual development, but part of a larger awakening that threatens every structure built on limitation, scarcity, and separation. The time of suppression is ending. The cosmic cycles that the Maya tracked, the yugas of Hindu cosmology, the astrological ages all point to this moment as a time of potential awakening. The pineal gland is evolution's gift, a biological technology planted in our ancestors by forces we are only beginning to understand, waiting for the moment when humanity would need it most. That moment is now. The question is not whether the pineal gland is a gateway to other dimensions. The evidence across neuroscience, anthropology, and direct experience is overwhelming. The question is whether you will choose to remain asleep, comfortable in the prison of limited perception, or whether you will take the steps necessary to activate this dormant eye and see reality as it truly is. The masters of every tradition left the same message: you are more than you appear to be. Within you lies the kingdom, the Buddha nature, the divine spark. They were not speaking in metaphors, but pointing to a biological reality, a gland no larger than a grain of rice that serves as the interface between the human and the divine. The true meaning of the pineal gland is that you are not trapped in material reality, but equipped with the technology to transcend it. The gateway is within you. It has always been within you. The only question that remains is whether you will walk through it. The pine cone has been hidden in plain sight for millennia, waiting for those with eyes to see. Perhaps it waited for you. Perhaps it waited for this moment. The door is opening. Will you step through?